that, but it sort of felt like theatre. And every Friday morning at assembly, we'd dramatised a bit of the Bible, and for about 2 years, I always played Jesus. I gave the Sermon on the Mount.
That's where you got that complex from.
It is where I got that complex from. I don't have a complex, actually, but I was used to reading out, you know, in front of an audience.
And you have DNA, don't you? Music, your mum, your grandfather.
And my dad, he could literally work out the melody on this hand, and then he would go from that to playing like this. And my Auntie Vera, oh, actually, my dad played on all the black notes. My Auntie Vera could play by ear, using all the white notes.
When did you have this feeling, I want to be a pop star, I want to be a musician?
I never have had that. I've never had that feeling, no. That's why I'm reluctant.
Are you still reluctant then?
Of course I'm reluctant. I've never had any desire for that.
I used to go around Newcastle when I was 17 telling everyone I was going to be a pop star. Really, really different and very compelling.
Stuck on my eyes. That's all we got.
Neil and Chris both, I think, knew from the beginning that using machines offers you possibilities.
Because they think about it and they're amazingly talented, they come up with clever, articulate, but also emotional and dancey music.
What they've always brought forward is an imagination. They've always...
Obviously, they're wrong.
Why can't the English teach their children how to speak? This verbal class distinction, by now, should be antique. If you spoke as she does, sir, instead of the way you do, why, you might be selling flowers, too.
I always liked My Fair Lady, and we had the record at home of Julie Andrews and Rex Harrison. And when the Lerner and Lowe who wrote that, they wrote part of Professor Higgins in Speak Singing.
For English, you're regarded as a freak. Why can't the English? Why can't the English learn to speak?
Now, I knew all these words off by heart, so that sort of went into my style.
That is behind it as well.
The man at the back of the queue was sent to feel the smack of firm government, lingered by the fly poster for a fight. It's the same story every night. I've been hurt and we've been had. You leave home and you don't go back. Someone told me Monday, someone told me Saturday. Wait until tomorrow and there's still no way. Read it in a book or write it in a letter. Wake up in the morning and there's still no guarantee.
Neil's writing style is, I think it's very, what can I say? It's incredibly romantic in a lot of ways, but it's also framed in a sort of sardonic way and in a more tongue-in-cheek fashion. So I think it's kind of like a soft center with a hard shell.
Neil, I mean, he was part of the team that created really brilliant Smash Hits questions. I mean, he came up with the classic Smash Hits question, and we never asked that question. We would ask, what colour is Tuesday? We would say, have you ever been sick in your shoes? Have you got any interesting scars? All of those will lead to really interesting answers.
Neil and I especially are big lovers of high culture, and whether it's, you know, ballet, theater, and especially literature.
You gave me hyacinths first a year ago. They called me the Hyacinth Girl. Yet, when we came back late from the hyacinth garden, your arms full and your hair wet, I could not speak, and my eyes failed. I was neither living nor dead, and I knew nothing.
I always loved the long poem, The Wasteland, by T.S. Eliot. And what I've always liked about it, has all these different voices in it. And also he quotes, I was going to say like I do, he quotes conversations he's heard on the bus, for instance, as a famous sequence. And so in West End Girls, there are different voices talking, including my mother saying, just you wait till I get you home.
That was a proper fun.
I just remember our manager, Jill, in 1993 probably. David Fielding, the theatre designer, came in with a model of the orange jumpsuits, whatever they were, and pointy hats. She said, I'm worried this is going to just look ridiculous. And secretly, I worried the same thing. But I thought it was so different, it was worth a go.
Suddenly they turn up with these images where they've got these cone hats on and the suits, and we're just like, where the fuck did this come from?
I always remember Adamant's line, ridicule is nothing to be scared of.
It's kind of like, can you make them into an interesting cartoon?
Right, we don't like this. It looks like an inner sleeve, doesn't it?
You know why? It is
It's
in
the
the
inner
sleeve.
sleeve. You can now get this as Christmas wrapping paper, or is it wallpaper? It'd be nice on any bedroom wall, that, wouldn't it? Right, then what have you got to say about that?
Bilingual.
It obviously doesn't mean bilingual, does it?
Do you think it means bisexual?
I do.
It was sort of a joke. Well, what we're going to remember of this is this shoot. We've got the wigs and the makeup, and we're wearing suits for some reason, and we do this with a photographer on the New York subway.
And we're trying to get to Coney Island. We never get on the right
Chris
train.
keeps saying, we're on the wrong train, we're on the
We
wrong
never
It's
get
like,
there.
We're on the wrong train, because he's right, we're on the wrong train. We
The
never
great
get
thing
there.
is, because it's New York, nobody looks at us.
They're very particular, the Pet Shop Boys, as well, aren't they? And I've bumped into them at certain things. I've interviewed them a few times. Now, that doesn't mean I know much about their private life, because I don't. But they don't kind of...
Before George Michael came out.
You know what, let's just go for this. And I had my shirt undone to here. I've never done that since, to be honest.
I mean, it's the only time you were selling sex, isn't it?
It's a Sin is now such an iconic song. Can you tell me about that and working with Derek?
We decided to make it really, really epic and over-the-top Catholic. I personally thought you should be able to smell the incense, really. While Stephen Hague was mixing it in the studio, Channel 4 was showing Derek Jarman's film Caravaggio. And so Caravaggio was playing with the sound down, with It's a Sin playing over it. And we thought, let's get him to do the video. Of a long association with Derek Jarman. And then in 1992, he asked us to play a party that was going with his AIDS paintings that were being shown in a gallery. And we decided to do a cover version. And then the next day, Chris came in with the Village People's greatest hits. We should do this song called Go West. And it went down very well. And we suddenly realised we had a hit. But that has become part of our practice, doing cover versions and transforming the song. We make it sound like we wrote it. I always forget we didn't write Go West, really.
It's a little bit like playing Battleship. Lots of noise, yes. With each other, it's how you gel together with people. That's where all the great relationships come from. And I think Neil and Chris are very instinctive in embracing a new direction and trying it. There's a real nothing ventured, nothing gained philosophy to the way that...
Chris and I sitting in the office at the sort of receptionist desk, and Dusty Springfield walked in, and we were sort of tittering because it was quite nerve-wracking. Dusty Springfield. Now, when we grew up, Dusty Springfield was always on the television, famous for the hand movements, but the heartbreaking, amazing songs. And she says, oh, what do you want me to sound like? And we said, well, you. She says, Oh, I guess I can still do that, yeah. And people have been so horrible about her to us, saying she can't sing, you know, she's an alcoholic. And actually, we learned afterwards she was in this very tough place. She was living in a Paper Day motel. She'd been in a mental hospital for harming herself. Nonetheless, she came in dressed in black leather, and she was...
Separately.
And also...
They understand the artists, that they work with people that they love and they like working with and they get and they understand. And they just wave a kind of Pet Shop Boys magic wand.
I can't believe I got to collaborate with them. It's so good. Like, Neil really wanted it to be a real proper collaboration, you know.
My time goes so slow, and I don't know how the show will...
Yes! This is how the song should have sounded.
Let's get out of this life.
They've kind of got it perfectly. I mean, it was Unish two bands would close this circle and we'd come together, which is all part of this huge, big Pet Shop Boys panorama. I'm happy to be part of that panorama.
I wonder always who they said no to. Because there must be some, isn't there? There must be some people that they've kind of, somebody's mooted a collaboration and they've gone, not for us.
One of Neil and Chris's strengths is they are very comfortable to say no to stuff. And that's because I think they are ultimately, they're much bigger than just being a musical artist. They are an experience.
They've written ballets. They wrote a brilliant piece of music based on the life of Alan Turing that we performed at the Royal Albert Hall. And I think that working across different formats, if you will, gives them complete creative freedom.
Chris phoned me up one morning. I remember I was lying in bed reading. He said, I think we should make a ballet of the story, The Most Incredible Thing. It was what we always want to do: music, theatre, performance, film, all coming together.
You shall not covet your neighbor's husband or wife. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor.
When we finally had an orchestra rehearsal, and this was a full orchestra, reproducing with violins and percussion, piano, the electronic music, the electronic sound. And for anybody that was in that room, this was just groundbreaking. And what it was more fascinating is that it still sounded like Pet Shop Boys. That was a relief. I didn't want them to all of a sudden give me a semi-symphonic Tchaikovsky moment. I wanted to have something that had the grandness of the stage work, but at the same time was unadulterated Pet Shop Boy-ness.
Working with Pet Shop Boys is a bit like wearing the Pet Shop Boys glasses.
Ed came with the brilliant idea, I think we should play against the venue. And so we did Lasers in the Royal Opera House.
What I've found with Neil and Chris is everything's been proved already. The songs are already in the popular imagination. So if we want to craft something that might succeed, might fail, that's okay. The songs are there to support us in our continuing inquiries and curiosity.
We always do things the difficult way. That's the enduring theme of our career, is that we always do things the difficult way. I mean, even the show tonight, why do we stand there in front of these, with these masks on? It's to build up the tension, which is then released when we take them off. But We don't make it easy. You've got to earn it. It's always been like that with our shows. I mean, when we did the show in 1991, the performance show, which is the most theatrical one, we had tons of dancers and the whole thing, we followed the convention that it was an opera, so we didn't acknowledge the audience. Of course, the great thing about a rock audience and a pop audience is the audience going mad. We ignored that. And it was a real tension. I can't believe we did, but it was good, you know. It was a statement. We didn't make that statement again. We made it at that time.
There's a hallmark of Pet Shop Boys, not just their work methods, but in their choice of collaborators as well. I think they always work with people who are uncompromising.
I'd seen a 1967 black beaded dress, which I thought reminded me of straws. So I did like the pound shop version of using the black straws on a jacket instead of black beads.
Sometimes you give all the authority over to them. When someone says, put this pointy hat on, or Ez says you're going to put cubes on your head, well, of course, Chris quite likes that. That's probably why she thought of it, because she knows you like to hide your head. Or Jeffrey Bryant comes up with the the jackets made of 2,000 plastic straws, which I said, I'm not going to wear that. But then, of course, they were wearing them, because they look sort of great. And also, they're like, I think Jeffrey's like an artist. I mean, they really are artworks.
Eventually we did one with 4,000 black plastic drinking straws on. The actual sample was very heavy. So Neil tried it on in rehearsals, and it was just so stiff that he couldn't lift his arm up with a microphone.
Now is the time of our lives.
So we had a diluted version. Neil's had very few straws on the front, but lots of bristles on the sleeves. And then Chris was almost bald at the front with lots of bristles, like a hedge around the back, so he could play keyboards. There was novelty in the fact that you could buy something that was very cheap and then make something which was, quite spectacular.
Now and forever.
Without experimenting, you're going nowhere.